advertising program.
Would you say that you guys focus more on any one particular category? Like say, so if do you focus more on the social media, or do you focus more on, say, television ads or radio ads or, billboards, flyers, things like that?
We have a budget of about it's about $700,000 is our marketing budget that allows us to do printing, the schedules and Viewbook and the advertising, and so we have to be aware of our resources. That sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not. So we have limited resources. We have to spend those judiciously, and so what we've done is over the past 5 years, our mix of media has changed considerably. When I started, our budget for print advertising was $250,000, and that has shrunk to maybe 10% of what that was. While our social media advertising has gone up probably 200%. We do a lot of Facebook advertising now. If you go to one of the for-profit schools, like Kaplan or Phoenix, and you type in their name, there'll be a DMACC ad there. So we have a pretty sophisticated social media advertising plan. So I think we have a pretty good mix of traditional advertising, radio, television, newspaper, but we're not trying to do a lot with the traditional advertising. We're trying to get people in that advertising to be aware that going to college is good for them and that they're going to have to advance their career. And then it's to drive them to the web, and that's where all of the resources and components are. And we've created elements on the web that are resources and to whether you have questions about, you think this career is right for you or that career, College Knowledge is called, and we've compiled articles from all over the country on paying for college. Is college right for you? What kind of questions do you ask institutions? It's just kind of a data bank to help students educate themselves about going to school. And then we have all of our programs based there. So our traditional advertising is to get them to go to the website. And then there's resources on the website to help them. And as I said, our awareness is very strong across central Iowa. So, that's a real advantage for us. So the goal is to differentiate and relevance and answer those two questions for the college, and then why are we better than the 24 other educational institutions that are there in central Iowa? That's the question that we have to answer. So did I answer that?
I think so.
Okay.
What other questions do we have?
So looking at who you're advertising to, do you have a certain age group that you're kind of looking for in the sense of who you want to attract to DMACC?
That's a great question. We have a number of different audiences. The traditional audience is 17 to 24-year-olds. It's young people, high school juniors and seniors, and kind of that traditional college age audience. That's been our biggest audience, and so we spend a lot of time marketing to them. But DMACC is unique because we have a lot of older students. We've had students that have worked, or they've been at other institutions. They're older audiences. So the 25 to 40-year-old we market very heavily to also. And we just launched an adult brand with an adult viewbook, an adult schedule, and things that are tailored to that 25 to 40-year-old audience. And so that's another important group. And then we have a diversity component to our marketing program where we market to African Americans, Hispanics, and so those are the three big audiences. Groups over 45 or 50 we've disengaged from. It's enough of a job to market to those three audiences. So the older audiences, we used to have another component that would market to retired folks to come back and take the class, and we pretty much don't have that anymore. And because of the growth of the college, if you were retired, you could audit classes. You can't do that anymore either because of the growth of the school. So that's an audience we've just disengaged from.
So how do you differentiate between the three components in your advertising? Looking at advertising to the 17 to 24-year-olds as compared to the 24 to 50-year-olds?
We our traditional advertising campaign is at 17 to 24-year-old, and so we create 3 sets of advertising. We have a set of advertising for 17 to 24-year-old. We, for example, will have opportunity, affordability, and thinking about your future for the 17 to 24-year-olds, and we put those on KISS FM. We put those on the younger radio stations, and then we send out those kind of messages out on Facebook to that age group. And our Facebook advertising, we advertise those younger messages to groups 100 miles out of Des Moines, and then the 17 to 24-year-old, if you're that age, then that's what we target. So we do a lot of things to target that audience, and then the Viewbook is for the 17 to 24-year-old audience. We have materials that are just for that group. The schedule of classes is for the 17 to 24-year-olds, and then we have another campaign just for the 25 to 40-year-olds. And we did 3 sets of commercials, radio spots that we run on the bus, and light FM, and for that group. So we changed the music, we changed the message, we changed the stations, and so we run those to reach that audience. And then we have another Facebook campaign for the older audience, and then that's 100 miles outside of Des Moines also. The brand of DMACC is Life's Calling, and we did a lot of testing on that. And one of the challenges that we had was what appeals, to this group of audiences that we have. It's very challenging to speak to somebody that is 20 years old and have it resonate with somebody that's 45. So the Life's Calling is our brand and is with everything, but Live Life Like You Mean It is tailored more for the younger audience. And then we have a Viewbook for adults, and we have a schedule for the adult audience, and we market our 8-week classes on the Ankeny campus, and non-traditional hours, and some of the things that older audience wants. So we have different messages, different resources, and different mediums that we use to reach the different audiences. We advertise to Hispanic audiences on, there's a Hispanic yellow book that we have a full-page ad in, and a Hispanic radio station, and then there's a Hispanic newspaper. We have different messages, and different mediums that we use for them too.
How long do you test your idea for, if you know it's gonna work or not?
The brand Life's Calling, we tested for almost a year, and we did face-to-face, and we did focus groups, and we did a telephone survey, and it was pretty significant. For Live Life Like You Mean It, it was 3 months of testing, and we tested with internal students. We tested with potential students, but it was a more shortened, it was about a 3-month process. The Viewbook is kind of unique too, because we work very closely, as I said, with enrollment management, Michael Lynch and his folks. And Michael is responsible for the Viewbook, and we work in tandem on the messages and what we want to convey, and the graphics and the visuals and things like that.
How do you come up with your slogans? I mean, do you guys just have a meeting where everybody pitches ideas, or somebody just has stuff really one in the middle of the night, comes in and says, I've got it, or how do you come up with them?
It's kind of a brain dump. It starts out as a brain dump. You know, we look at all of these different elements, and then we have a creative meeting. And we had a songwriter who was part of that this year. And this gentleman was really the guy that came up with Live Life Like You Mean It. He had some music that was kind of in his head, and so it was just, it kind of came up, and the other ideas that we had didn't really rise to the surface. So we did some testing. This gentleman has a studio in Nashville, and had a singer, do some demos for us, and tested very strong. And so that kind of came out of left field this time. The invest in yourself was a more pragmatic thing, where we came up with that internally. So it comes up from a lot of different places. That's a good question. And we did 2 musical themes. We did kind of a Black Eyed Peas version. So when you hear the Live Life Like You Mean It on the radio, there's 2 different ones. There's that Black Eyed Peas version that has some techno pop in it, and then there's another version that's kind of an 80s theme.
So one of the questions that Ryan had was, when you're thinking about the Viewbook, are you looking to appeal to these subconscious appeals to students, or are you just trying to make a really interesting brochure?
Subconscious appeal is the first thing. We want, you've got a couple of seconds to grab their attention. So if we've got this at one of our mall kiosks, for example, and students walking by, it's got to catch their attention. And so you don't want it to look like a textbook. So the visual appeal is very important. And then you don't have a lot of, once they grab it, you don't have a lot of time to, they want information and they want it very quickly. So some of the things that Michael and I have changed over the past couple of years, we have a graphic representation in there about how much money you'll save in choosing DMACC over another institution. Top 10 reasons. That's a real quick way for us to get some of our attributes across to the audiences. We have graphic representation of our river of apps, some of the things that appeal to students. Some of the social and cultural elements of DMACC are in here. And then we boiled down the process. Here's how to apply. It's, I think it was a 4-step graphic representation in the back of the Viewbook. And we put that very similar to, if you take a flight, you know, you go to United Airlines, they run you through, okay, what city do you want to go in, when do you want to go? It's very linear, it's a very easy process to follow. And so that's what we tried to accomplish with this, that, you know, this is what we want to get across, and it's a very, very quick thing. So, you know, getting an emotional reaction to the audience from the graphics and the pictures, and then having the information that they want and need. We've done a lot of testing over the past few years to find out from students, just like this classroom, that have reviewed the book and made some suggestions, and we've listened and taken some things out and made some changes. One of the biggest changes to this is we have a real advantage being in central Iowa, and we think that you know, that is a huge competitive advantage for us over all of the other community colleges and all of the other institutions around the state. Central Iowa is a very vibrant place. It's a very vibrant environment. And so if you go to the middle, we have a fold-out of living and working in central Iowa. A lot of job opportunities here, too. And so we're using that as a competitive advantage that we have at the college and communicating that to the audiences.
What else?
Have you had a backfire in the advertising that you've done, so for like towards your brand, and you thought something was going to work and then it really did not? It kind of put a negative aspect to your brand?
We have been very fortunate that we have not had that happen. That is a train wreck when it happens. And it's happened to another institution in Iowa, and that was Drake University. I'm not spilling the beans, it was all over the media. They had a company called Staymates, which is in Cedar Rapids. They worked with that company to develop a new brand, kind of a refreshing look for the college, or for the university, and came up with this D+ campaign. And, you know, it tested fairly favorably, but, you know, with an institution of higher education, being D+ is not something I think you want to be associated with. And so that, when they launched that, it just exploded into their face. Another mistake that they had was they never tested D+ with their internal audiences. So the faculty just had a cow when they launched that. And, you know, how could you associate an impressive institution like Drake with D+? And so they had a huge crisis on their hands. And they've spent the last year kind of doing a backstroke and changing that, reversing from that. That was pretty bad.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was gonna say they used to be so little known. It was Drake, you know, and now it's deep. So that's good.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate how effective your campaigns are? Like the Viewbook, how do you, like after you've, you know, it's been published, how do you guys sort of check in and see how it's working?
Well, there's a number of ways we do that. We do that through follow-up testing. We get great feedback from classes. There's a class on the Yankton campus, the Carroll campus, that does the same thing. We get feedback from them. And then, how are they off the shelves? You know, we print 14,000 a year. And so, you know, if they are on a pallet in Building 12 on the Yankton campus, you know, they didn't turn out very well. So through testing and other ways, And you know, one thing with the Viewbook and everything else, it's never, it's constantly changing. You know, the Viewbook next year will change. We'll hear things back and make changes and alterations. So I guess that's one fun thing about marketing is it's ever evolving. Yeah, it's never the same.
Are you guys the ones that did the programs on Fox this summer too?
Yeah, Discover DMACC
That
TV
was
show.
good. That was good.
Thanks. We run that every quarter.
Yeah.
And then it's on the college channel, MediaCom channel 16, and then we put it on the website after we.
It's only what, a half an hour, I think, but it was enough to, yeah. I mean, it caught, I had several neighbors that were one of his comments, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was a good thing. Yeah, I mean, so it is getting around. Yeah.
Thanks for. We run that. We have a deal with Fox. We run that 5 times.
Okay.
So I'm glad. Thanks for bringing that up.
That's, yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you got, I'm not only the radio, you know, but yeah, TV, and it's a popular channel that a lot of people watch, so, I mean, not everybody has cable or dish, but, you know.
You know, that's interesting you bring that up. We've increased our presence on TV in the visual medium because about 3 years ago we did a study and people came back saying visual television is important to them. So that's kind of where Discover DMACC TV show came from. What's that?
So what all is involved in your testing process, and like what audiences do you use to go out with your testing to decide what you want?
Well, it's nice that we've got kind of ready-made audiences, and we use classes to test. We have a presence in the high schools. We teach college courses in high schools, so we tap that and we go into some high school classrooms and get feedback. Sometimes we do a web survey. We've used SurveyMonkey before. There's a lot of various testings we've done. We've gone out and done some face-to-face testing, focus groups, things like that. You know, it's interesting how that is changing too. I was reading an article in a publication called Smart Company, and a gentleman has come up with a way to measure brain signals, and so he's got this kind of Star Trek cap that he puts these people on, and they do a baseline survey and ask you questions. How do you emotionally respond to, you know, certain visual elements? And then they do testing of commercials and web videos and things like that. And so companies with big bucks have been putting that in their mix of research to see how it tests with audiences. There are some places that don't believe in any advertising. Apple, for example, doesn't do any advertising. But they've been absolute marketing geniuses. So it's, you know,
Some like things you just say the name and it's like boom, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just incredible
Oh,
what
but I
they've
think
done.
DMACC's come a long way though through the years, a long way from what they used to develop,
It's you gotta keep up.
especially the way our you know the world's changing
Yeah.
so dramatically.
Are there differences or similarities between marketing a college versus marketing products or services?
That's a great question too, and it was a question that I was asked when I was hired. And there had been a tradition of hiring people with education backgrounds in the marketing position. And I'm very thankful that President Denson is the president, because he has a real tremendous appreciation for marketing and understands the power of marketing and is an awesome speaker for the college. And I think he has been responsible for, in a lot of ways, for our strength in the brand and our greater presence in the communities. But to get to your question, I don't think communicating a college is any different than communicating U.S. Cellular or Procter & Gamble or you know, any of the other products and services. I think that all of the elements of the brand are different, what you're trying to communicate, but you know, how you do it is very similar. And so, you know, if you want a successful, if you want to communicate and get students into the classroom, there's a lot of similarity between advertising for, you know, the new Android device. A lot of the same elements, I think, go into that. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody mentioned that you hear a lot more about DMACC these days, and we take great pains to do everything that we can to be the #1 in advertising, PR, and community relations in Central Iowa. And if I was, you know, working for Verizon or AT&T, I would want those same elements. So.
That's great. Yep. Final thoughts? Final questions? Mr. Jones has to go at 10:30, so it's our last chance.
Didn't realize there was so much involved in putting just, you know, something like this together. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Oh, sure.
Interesting,
Yes.
yeah.
Thanks for being
We'll get
here.
it right from the horse's mouth.